Hi, welcome back to another video. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to redo something that has bugged me a little bit. In my playlist in my library, there's a playlist that is How I Debian. And what I want to do is I want to correct a couple things that was in that that video series. It's 3 videos. About halfway through the second video, I ended up doing a mistake, and I skipped a step when I was going through the upgrade process for Debian. And basically what I do is I want to do that kind of all over again. This is going to be a little bit of a long video or longer video series, so I can cover a lot of different things. Debian on my typing system is a type 2 distribution. A type 1 would be like Fedora. Even though it's a little harder to install, it's still a type 1 because it's ready out of the box as soon as you get it installed. You don't have to really do anything else to it. With Debian, it's a type 2. Type 2s basically require a little bit more skill, a little command line knowledge to get it installed. It may or may not come with an installer, kind of like Arch. Arch is also a type 2. But basically, it's kind of it's not exactly move-in ready. It's not a turnkey kind of distribution, even though it might be easy to install or it might be mostly complete after it's installed. But the key difference is it's not install and forget it in less than 5 minutes kind of thing like a Linux Mint. And having said that, it also gives you a lot more flexibility, a lot more power, a lot more choices. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and show how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm back at my BIOS, and I'm just going to go ahead and select my USB here, and we're going to boot from that. Now, there's a couple different ways we could do this. We can install the graphical installation, or we can install the regular install, the text base. They ask the exact same questions in the exact same order. One of them is not harder than the other, except for the graphical install. You get to use your mouse and click buttons. With the regular text installer, you gotta use the keyboard only. There's no mousing to it, so I guess the graphical is a little easier in that regards. So we'll go ahead and run through that. All my other videos with Debian are using the text installer, so we'll be fair and we'll do the graphical installer this time. So I'm going to take my mouse and choose English and click continue. United States, continue. American English, continue. And while this is going, give me just a second. You're hearing a little bit of background noise. I need to close the door. All right. Sorry about that. Oh, too lazy to pause. So this is going to detect the Ethernet, and I got 2 choices. I can use my Wi-Fi or my wired network. I am connected to wired, so we'll just go ahead and choose that one. It's going to detect, auto assign IP addresses, do all the fancy stuff it needs to do, and then it will let you know when it's done. I'm just going to leave the name as Debian. And no domain name. Okay, if you haven't watched many of my other videos, I'll go ahead and make it to where you don't have to, but I'm going to explain it briefly. If you want a more in-depth explanation of what I'm talking about, go back and watch some of my other Debian videos. Basically, what this window here is asking for is root passwords. If you specify a root password here, the first user you add will not have sudo access. If you leave these blank, the first user that we add, which is going to be in the next screen or 2, will have sudo access, and it will act exactly the same way any other Linux distribution has. The root user will be locked out, and the first person you add will have sudo access, which is the norm. So that's the way we're going to do it here. Full name of new user. LTL. And a password. All right, I'm going to choose my time zone, which is the central time zone in the United States. So what it's doing now is it's actually detecting all the disks, see if there's any other operating systems or anything else on the disk. What we're going to do here is we're just going to choose to use the entire disk. Doing so will completely delete and destroy all the data that's on that disk. So if you need to back data up, you need to do so before you get to this screen. And we're going to choose the onboard 256 gig Micron. Now on the screen here, more advanced configurations, you can actually separate the partitions out. Most people don't need it. That's why it says recommended for new users. That way it doesn't confuse you. However, if you have a little bit of Linux experience under your belt, it would be a good exercise to separate these partitions out. And as this screen suggests, the ones that you should consider separating out the most are home, var, and temp. That way, if any of these partitions get full, it's not going to affect system performance. If your home directory gets full on a computer where there is no separation and fill the disk up, it's going to negatively impact the operating system's core performance. However, if it's on its own partition or on its own hard drive, if that partition or that hard drive fills up, it doesn't affect the main system. It just fills that partition. Same thing with var, which is where all of your logs are at. And then, of course, the temp directory. So just for the sake of ease, I'm going to go ahead and just click next, because this video is not about partitioning. I can go through another video perhaps in the future and do that. It depends. If you want to see that, go ahead and leave a comment below. And depending on the feedback I get will depend on whether I do that video or not. But for now, I'm just going to click continue. And this is the way it's going to slice it up. We're going to have a 1 meg free buffer at the beginning. This ESP is your, not secure boot, your EFI partition, your boot partition. Then the root partition is going to be the majority of the drive. It's going to give 1 gigabyte to swap, and then the rest of the drive is going to be free. And of course we have to say yes. And now all the data is gone. So what it's going to do here is it's going to install a base system and, excuse me. Sorry for that last bit of pause there, I had to cough. Anyway, once this is done, we'll continue. So one of the things about Debian is a lot of people say, well, it's old, it's outdated, it's archaic. And when they're talking about stable, they're mostly correct. It is. That image right there, Linux image 6.1, they're quite a bit higher than that now. So yeah, the packages are old, but here's the thing. This thing is old and stable. It's rock solid. It's bulletproof. It's not going to crash on you. In fact, you have to pretty much intentionally cause it to crash in order to actually see any instability out of it, because it's been tested and tested and tested and tested. This operating system, Debian 12, is more than 3 years old. It's almost 4 years old. And it has been constantly upgraded. Bugs have constantly been fixed the entire time. That's not counting the 2 years it was in testing. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Debian might be old, but again, it's bulletproof. United States, I'm just going to choose the default mirror. I don't need a proxy. If you don't know what a proxy is, you probably don't need one either. So it's updating its mirror, so it's scanning the file repositories based on the file mirror setup that's in the sources file. And then it's going to go ahead and install. And again, this is the stuff that I downloaded a few minutes ago when I said it was installing the base system. So now I was going through and actually installing it and configuring it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause video here while this is going. Okay, on the screen here, when it talks about participation in a package survey, this is actually some of the oldest type of telemetry that software collects. Basically, it's wanting to collect a list of packages, your hardware, and that kind of thing. You can choose yes at this point. The important thing to note about Linux, especially Debian here, is it honors your answer. So if you choose no, you leave it as no, which is the default. That's the way it's supposed to be. Telemetry should be opt-in, not opt-out. So it will, if you select no, it honors that and it keeps it that way. It will not report any usage unless you explicitly tell it yes. So we're going to click continue. All right, I'm not going to do the GNOME desktop. I usually do KDE. But you can do Cinnamon, you can do XFCE, Cinnamon, or GNOME Flashback, I guess, is a previous version. Like I said, I don't know. I don't use GNOME. Mate, LXD, LXQt. So we'll go ahead and done XFCE in the past, done KDE in the past. Let's do Cinnamon this time. And this is like I said, this is one of the beauties of having a type 2 distribution is you get to pick the stuff as you go along. You don't have to, like with Linux Mint, you can choose between their different flavors. You do that before you even download it, but you don't do it on the fly. You don't change it as you go along. This is one install, one ISO, and you can configure everything with it, just like you can with Arch. You choose how you want this to go through. All right, so continue. And I'm going to pause while it's downloading this. Okay, so it says here that the installation is complete. We're going to go ahead and continue. And we're going to go ahead and let this reboot. At this point, you can go ahead and remove your thumb drive if you want to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it in because it doesn't matter. It's not going to boot to it. All right. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and do Debian GNU. If you try to boot this and it doesn't work and you end up having to force reboot it, try the advanced options. And in there, you can do like a safe mode. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the default and let it boot up. And this is going to take us directly to the sign-in screen once this actually finishes booting up. Considerably faster than Mint. Log in. And like I said, that graphical installer wasn't any easier than the text installer. It asks all the same questions, the same order, it takes the same amount of time. The only difference is the graphical installer allows you to click mouse buttons. That's it. That's the only difference. Okay, so this is the default look of Cinnamon. Clear notifications. It has a start button. It has File Explorer. It has a terminal window. Lower right-hand corner is just familiar if you're familiar with Windows style layout, where you have the taskbar at the bottom, system tray on the right, start button on the left. Typical layout, nothing special. So what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. Let's see if I can get this. That's not going to, that terminal's not going to go. All right, so let me do this right here. This out of the way. Color, scrolling, text. I want to custom font. I know. Go away. And we are going to bump this up a bit. There we go. That way the people in the back can see. All right. So the first thing we want to do after we first boot up is an update. Sudo apt update. Hit enter, put in our password. And it's going to say it's all up to date. This is because when you download Debian by default, you go to debian.org and you click the download button in the upper right hand corner. It's a huge button, cannot miss it. It's going to give you a really tiny ISO. That's called a net install. The net install ISO, all it contains is the instructions on how to install Debian. That's why it's so small. It's only a couple hundred meg if I'm not mistaken. Everything else is downloaded from the internet, so it's already going to push the latest updates to you. You are automatically downloading the latest packages of everything. That's why we're not seeing any updates here. Okay, So the first thing we're going to want to do is we are going to, in the last video series, I was showing how to go from Bookworm, which is the stable version, to testing. And that's where I made the boo-boo, because I was supposed to do the sudo apt update and then the sudo apt full-upgrade. And I didn't do that. I just did the basic upgrade, and it kind of banjaxed everything. I did get it recovered, but embarrassingly enough, it was still a boo-boo. So again, with the type 2 distribution, you have the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want here. At this point, if you wanted, you can replace systemd with OpenRC. I have a video on how to do that if you want to check it out. You can stay unstable. You can stay exactly where you're at right now. You can upgrade to testing. You can install the backports kernel if you need the newer video drivers, and stay on the old stable, unstable. There's a difference between stable and old stable. Old stable is a thing. The sky's the limit. You can go wherever you want to at this moment in time. You didn't have to do Cinnamon. You could do GNOME. You can do KDE. That is the power of the Type 2 distributions. The power of the Type 2 Linux distributions with Arch. You can do the exact same thing using OpenRC. It's not supported by Arch officially, but it's fairly easy. You just go to their wiki and search for it. It's just a simple few-step process, and you can install OpenRC instead of systemd there too. Again, this is the power of the Type 2 distribution. You have more control. It's more in your hands than the Type 1s are. So where we go from here, I guess we'll just do the stable to testing upgrade, which is the point that I messed up in the video series. So let's go ahead and do that. To do that, we do need to sudo, because we're going to edit a system file, and that is etc apt sources.list. Apparently it's not there. Oh, making mistakes already. I need nano in there. You gotta know how to. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so all I'm going to do is get rid of these comments. Read them if you want. Not necessarily, really. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here to the top. Actually, there is one other thing I want to do first. I want to go ahead and do a Control-X. I'm going to save the buffer, and we're going to write that file back out. What I want to do is I want to sudo apt install apt transport https. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to now go in here, and we're going to Control W and then Control R, and I want to find http:// and I'm going to replace that with https://. And when I hit enter and then A for all, and it replaced all 6 of them. Okay, so I'm going to Control X to save it again. Now I'm going to do a sudo apt update. Okay, so now once I do that, as you can tell, it's actually using secured websites and not doing your package updates over unencrypted over an unencrypted session. You're just downloading packages. It doesn't really matter that much. But if you are security conscious, or if you're one of those people that think that, okay, well, absolutely everything I do on the internet has to be secure, it has to be over SSL or whatever, you're not wrong. You're really not. Just not everybody is that forward thinking, or not that security minded. Some people are like, it's just packages, I don't care. And they're not wrong either. Personal preference. Okay, so now once that's done, Control clears the screen as usual. I'm going to go back into here. This time I'm going to do a search and replace. And this is going to be for Bookworm, is what we're looking for. And we're going to replace that with Trixie. Okay. Enter. A for all, and it replaced all 6 instances. Control X to save. Okay. So Bookworm is the code name for the current stable version, which is Debian 12 Bookworm. The next stable version coming out is going to be Debian 13 Trixie. Trixie is currently in testing. And that's what we're doing, is we're just upgrading to a newer version. Think of it as like you're upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11, or one Mac OS version to the next Mac OS version. Same difference. All right, so now this time we need to do a sudo apt update. And what that's going to do is it changes the repositories from Bookworm to Trixie. And then on here it's telling you there's 1,455 packages that's going to be upgraded. And you can perform this command here, apt list upgradable, and get a list so you can audit to see if you really want to do this or not. This is where the boo-boo happened. Control clears the screen. Sudo apt upgrade is the command that I issued last time, and it broke it. That's not the command you're supposed to do. Full -upgrade. Hit enter. Those are all the packages it's going to install or upgrade. 1,455, 398 of them are new, 148 need to be removed. It's going to download 1.6 gigs worth of information, and after the installation, it's going to be 1.2 gigs more than it is now. So Trixie is about a gig larger than Bookworm. So we'll go ahead and run that. Just hit enter and let it go. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Okay, now that's done installing, the first thing we need to do is reboot. After reboot, we'll clean up a little bit, and then we will be done. So notice the splash screen changed, the kernel version changed from 6.1 to 6.12. They're about ready to release this, by the way. Trixie's coming, is what I'm saying. Trixie will be the next stable. Okay. I can say I do like the new wallpaper. Forgot which box I was logging into there for a second. That wouldn't have worked because Scott's not a user on his computer. Okay. So, almost done. Go back in here. What we want to do is after you do an update or upgrade like that, you want to do a sudo apt auto remove. What this is going to do is it's going to remove all of the older packages that are ready to come out that have been replaced. This will free up some disk space for you. And as always, it asks you, this is what it's going to do. It's not going to upgrade anything or install anything, but it is going to remove 124 packages, and it's going to free up almost a gig of space. And this is the list of the packages it's going to remove. And the reason why it's removing these is because newer versions have already been installed. You're not losing these. You're not deleting Wayland. You're deleting an older version of Wayland. You're not deleting P7-zip. You're deleting an old version of it. Same thing with all of these other ones. So we're going to go ahead. It defaults to yes. That's what that capital letter down here means, is that's the default choice. So we're going to hit yes. I'm going to let this go. So it's cleaning. What we're doing now is we're just doing the housekeeping and cleaning the disk up a little bit. We have one more thing to do. It's Control L, and then it's going to be sudo apt auto clean. And what this does is it wipes out any downloaded packages that it still has in there. It will list those out for you, and then when you hit enter, it cleans them up, so it deletes that, frees up more disk space. So in total, what we are dealing with here is a total of 6.9 gigabytes. That's all that this is currently using, is 6.9 gigabytes. As you can tell, my USB drive is still plugged in. So it doesn't boot from it, it boots from the hard drive. And we are on Debian 13, as the splash screen shows. So we successfully, this time, upgraded from Debian stable to Debian testing. Moving forward here, it would just be a matter of changing wallpaper, changing themes, stuff like that. I'm not going to go through this again. If you want to see how I do that, go watch my Debian video with the OpenRC plus the backport kernel. during that video, I show you exactly how to do theming and where to start, how to search, that kind of thing, where to go. I'm not going to repeat all that. We're at 25 minutes on this video, and I think we're going to call it good. So anyway, see you next time.